What if a wanted killer became one of the most feared naval commanders in history? This is the story of John Paul Jones. He was originally a Scottish sailor, and in 1768, while returning on a merchant ship called the John, both the captain and senior officers died of yellow fever, leaving the ship leaderless in the Atlantic. No one dared to take command, so the crew voted for the 21-year-old, John Paul. Under immense pressure, he successfully brought the ship and crew safely back to port. The owner, who believed everything was lost, was shocked and rewarded him with his own ship, making him captain. But his life as a captain was far from smooth. On his second voyage, the crew mutinied over wages, and in anger, he punished the leader harshly. The man did not die immediately, but weeks later he passed away, and John Paul was accused of murder. After being released on bail, he left Scotland and took command of another ship sailing to Tobago, but his temper remained unchanged. When another mutiny broke out, he killed the ringleader directly, earning the reputation of a murderer. With no choice left, he fled and settled in Virginia, changing his name to John Paul Jones and trying to live quietly. But everything changed in April 1775, when the American Revolutionary War began. The newly formed Continental Navy started recruiting experienced sailors, and he immediately joined. The situation was desperate. America had only a few small ships, mostly converted merchant vessels, while Britain ruled the seas with hundreds of powerful warships. Direct battle was impossible, so they relied on raiding tactics, targeting British merchant ships, supply vessels, and ports. This was exactly where John Paul Jones excelled. He quickly rose through the ranks and by late 1776 became a captain with his own ship, though it was only a small sloop, which made him dissatisfied. He kept complaining to his superiors until they finally sent him to France aboard the Ranger with vague orders, essentially trying to get rid of him. On November 1st, 1777, he sailed to Europe full of ambition. In France, he met Benjamin Franklin. At first, Franklin found him arrogant and difficult, but over time they became close allies. Bold and fearless, John Paul Jones proposed a shocking plan to carry the war directly onto British soil itself. After capturing the Drake, John Paul Jones immediately continued attacking. On the same day, he captured 2 more ships and seized several smaller vessels, achieving all of this within only 1 month. By early May, he sailed triumphantly into the French port of Brest, shocking the entire city. The capture of the Drake turned the Ranger into a legendary American warship, while Britain officially declared Jones a pirate. The former fugitive had now become a hero of the American Revolution. But his greatest battle was still ahead. Later, Jones was given command of a converted merchant ship, which he renamed Bonhomme Richard, inspired by the writings of his friend Benjamin Franklin. Franklin also arranged a small fleet under his command, but Jones struggled to work with the other captains and quickly made enemies, especially the captain of the Alliance, who openly hated him and refused to cooperate. Even with a divided fleet, Jones sailed into the North Sea in search of British merchant ships. On the night of September 23rd, 1779, near the English coast, he spotted a large British convoy, protected by the powerful warship Serapis, armed with 44 guns. Jones immediately ordered his fleet to attack, but the Alliance ignored his commands and sailed away to chase smaller ships, leaving Bonhomme Richard alone against Serapis. Jones had no choice but to attack directly. As soon as the battle began, disaster struck. The larger cannons on his ship exploded after firing, because they were old and damaged, killing many of his own crew. At the same time, Serapis unleashed devastating fire into Bonhomme Richard, tearing the ship apart and filling it with smoke, fire, and panic. Seeing his crew close to collapse, Jones realized that if the fight continued at a distance, they would all die. So he made a desperate decision. He ordered full speed ahead and rammed Bonhomme Richard directly into Serapis, locking the 2 ships together. The British captain mocked him and demanded surrender, believing victory was certain. But Jones answered with legendary defiance, saying, "I have not yet begun to fight." Moments later, both crews began brutal close combat as the burning ships remained locked together in one of the most famous naval battles in history. As the battle raged on, John Paul Jones kept firing pistols and cannons while ordering his ship closer to the British warship, Serapis, for boarding. Soon the 2 ships became locked together. Their rails tangled so tightly neither could escape. At point-blank range, Serapis blasted Bonhomme Richard with devastating cannon fire, tearing the damaged ship apart even further. Realizing they could not survive much longer, Jones ordered his men to climb the masts and attack from above with grenades and musket fire. But the situation suddenly became even worse when the captain of the Alliance, who hated Jones, fired cannons into both ships at the same time, trying to destroy everyone together. Chaos spread everywhere. In the middle of the fighting, one American sailor climbed high above the enemy ship and spotted an open hatch leading below deck. He began throwing grenades inside. The first few missed, but finally one landed perfectly beside stored gunpowder. A massive explosion ripped through Serapis, killing more than 20 British sailors instantly and throwing the ship into panic. Both crews then charged onto each other's decks in brutal hand-to-hand combat. Some American sailors wanted to surrender, but Jones refused completely. After more than an hour of fighting, the British captain finally lowered his flag and surrendered his sword to Jones. Although bonhomme, Richard sank the next day from heavy damage. The victory shocked Europe and proved that the American Navy could defeat Britain's greatest warships during the American Revolutionary War, turning John Paul Jones into a legend.